Hi all, welcome to TutySpot. In this video, let's discuss about derivations. Derivation is the step-by-step process of applying a grammar's production rules to a starting symbol to generate a valid input string. Derivation process always starts with start symbol. Start symbol is nothing but we have grammar that contains several productions. The left-hand side non-terminal or variable of the first production is called a start symbol. See this here, A produces BC and D produces EF. Here, the start symbol is A. This derivation is a core part of parsing where the parser analyzes an input string by checking if it can be derived from the grammar, ultimately creating a parse tree to represent the string's syntactic structure. This derivation is a process of applying a sequence of production rules in order to obtain or derive a string. We can also generate parse trees here. We have two types of derivations. First is leftmost derivation. Here in each step, leftmost non-terminal is to be expanded. And the second is rightmost derivation. Here in each step, the rightmost non-terminal is to be expanded. Now let's have a look on derivation tree. It is also called as parse tree. The diagrammatic representation of a derivation is called as derivation tree. If we use the leftmost derivation, then it is the leftmost derivation tree. Parallelly, if we use rightmost derivation, then it is the rightmost derivation tree. We have three rules to obtain this derivation tree. First is the root node must be a start symbol. And second one, internal nodes has to be non-terminals. Internal nodes means the parent nodes that are having childrens or leaf nodes. Here, these middle two nodes are the internal nodes. And non-terminals are nothing but the uppercase letters, or we can simply call variables. And third rule is leaf nodes has to be terminals. Leaf nodes means these child nodes. That means these has to be lowercase or symbols. Let's see an example to see leftmost derivation tree, rightmost derivation and rightmost derivation tree. Suppose we have a grammar E produces E plus E or E into E or within the parenthesis E or ID. And we have to obtain the string ID plus ID into ID. Here the start symbol is E and the non-terminal V is E. And the terminals are plus, into, left parenthesis and right parenthesis and ID. First, let's see leftmost derivation. Here in each step, leftmost non-terminal has to be expanded. So to produce ID plus ID into ID, first we have to focus on plus and take E produces E plus E. So first we have to expand left side E. We have the production E produces ID. So replace this E with ID. In each step we have to derive only one non-terminal. So in the next step E is replaced with E into E because we need ID into ID here and we have the production E produces E into E. The operators we need here are plus and into. The required operators are derived here. So next replace these E's with ID because we have the production E produces ID. Coming from left to right, first replace this E with ID and in the next step replace this E with ID. So the required string ID plus ID into ID is produced. So now let's see how to construct the parse tree using the leftmost derivation. First this E produces E plus E, then this E obtains ID as we have the production E produces ID and then this E produces E into E. Because we have the grammar E produces E into E and then both these E's are replaced with IDs one after the other. To obtain the string, consider terminals from left to right. So ID plus ID into ID. The required string is obtained and this is how leftmost derivation works. Next is rightmost derivation. Here in each step, rightmost non-terminal should be expanded. So to produce ID plus ID into ID, we have to first focus on star and later plus. First take the production E produces E plus E and in the next step we have the grammar E produces E into E. So replace this E with E into E and we have E produces ID. So replace these two E's with ID one after the other. First this E is replaced with ID and then in the next step this E is replaced with ID and later this E is replaced with ID. So the required string id plus id into id is obtained. Now let's see how to construct parse tree from the rightmost derivation. In the first step we got e plus e from this e and then e into e from this e. We have both the productions e produces e plus e and e produces e into e. And we also have e produces id. Replace these e's with id one after the other every time in a single step to form the required string. So collecting from leftmost terminal to the rightmost terminal, we will get the string id plus id into id. So the required string is obtained. This is all about derivations. Hope you all understand. Thank you.